Well, hello, traders and investors. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets. We're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means we're trying to look at volume, supply and demand on the charts. That gives us clues about what's going to happen. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast out at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube, and it's under the channel L.A. Little. And if you want to subscribe and you haven't yet, just reach up in the right-hand corner. Click on the subscribe button. Anytime I push content, you get a notification. I also have a weekly show. It's on Sunday evening, broader perspective. I've been on the road for about 2 months. I've been doing shows from the road, a little bit more difficult. Now that we're back at the office, it's a little bit easier. I can show you a little bit more than I typically can. And tonight, I'm going to show you something we don't typically or haven't typically looked at in the last couple of weeks. And that is up underneath the covers. Let's look at the numbers first. So we had the S&P down slightly, same with the Dow. The Nikkei was, actually was up last night. It's down tonight. This is current numbers. Dollar actually reversed today. We'll see that in a second. But oil was the big story again. Oil continues down, and oil is going after that $40 on the West Texas Intermediate now. Remember at 50, I talked about it, said it was probably done. It's $10 cheaper now. It's 20%, and I guess it's about 6 weeks. Bonds skyrocketing back up. That's kind of a big story. We had the Fed today, so we'll talk about that a little bit. And then we look at the NASDAQ, the NDX. Now, the NDX, of course, got the big boost out of Apple's earnings. Tonight, they have another boost out of Facebook, so all the big caps are starting to come through. You got Google tomorrow, and there's one other one tomorrow. Escapes my mind right now. There's 2 of them tomorrow night that I thought were big. So those are going to be the big numbers. We already had the Fed. We got the Bank of Japan in the morning. That's going to be another currency mover, and we'll see how that affects the dollar and, of course, the yen. The NASDAQ did move higher. We ended up with the Russell higher. We had Asia a little bit higher as well, although it looks like the yen is pushing down on the Nikkei tonight. And we had gold and silver just plain take off. 1.6% here, 3.8 on the silver contract, and Europe was up again. But, folks, what we're going to look at next is we've got some problems up underneath the cover, so let's go there first. I'm going to start with the overseas markets. I haven't been looking at these much lately because they haven't been telling us anything, but they're starting to now. And what we're going to start seeing here, it looks like to me, is we're going to start seeing some reversals. So you got a 2-bar reversal tonight on the Australian, the All Ordinaries. It's after this nice big run, more than extended on the ABCD structure. Usually when you get that kind of thing, you're going to get a deeper pullback probably once it really sets in. And so you got a huge ABCD structure, right? It should have gone to about there, but it just kept going. And that's part of it is part of what's happening with the currencies there. Part of it, of course, is what's happening with equities everywhere. But a 2-bar reversal now, that should give you, at least tomorrow's a free bar. It should go sideways to down at best tomorrow. So let's see if it plays out that way, because what we're always trying to do is ask ourselves, what should it do? What are the probabilities suggesting? And does it do it? If it does, it's certainly telling us that it's respecting it. If it doesn't, then it's even stronger than we think, which sometimes is the case, and you learn either way. If we look elsewhere, you've got another reversal taking place here on the Sensex. So India gets over, back under, a little bit less volume. This is not a 2-bar, but this is an over-under at the highs. Looks like that one wants to come in. If we go to Brazil, which has had a huge run, Brazil, long tails at the top, does have volume up there tonight, but long tails telling you that this thing's getting ready to turn. If we look at if we go to Europe, go to the CAX. I'm just taking these in the order of my list. CAX pushes up, going after a swing point high. Nothing really on that chart. If we look at the FTSE actually got another push today. This has an extended run as well. It just tested a swing point high, and I believe it actually stayed over it. Let's make sure. That number was 6743 and got to, stayed over it. So that one's still looking good. And of course, the expectation is huge devaluation, and that currency is driving that market higher. If we go to the DAX, right, the DAX goes up and tests the swing point high and fails. So you go up, you test, you fail. I believe they're going to have less volume. I don't have the volumes in yet on these, but that is a test failure at the highs, right? And that's after an extended move. Right, again, ABCD structures were here. Now this does have another one in effect now. So another one is, let me see, printing from here to there. and back down and back up, right? So it's got a long way to go if it's going to continue, but this is one that should trade sideways to down tomorrow. Let's see if it does it. So overseas, we're starting to see some things that are suggesting that we may have some problems creeping in. Here's Canada having trouble at the top. That one doesn't really tell us that much, neither does this one. If I go over to, let's see, the Nikkei, I believe, was an interesting one. No, not the Nikkei. It was the Shanghai index. And I don't have volumes for a while on this one. We'll have to get these fixed now that I'm back. Let's get the Shanghai up here. And let me find it. Got the wrong symbols here. Somewhere it's Shanghai. That's the Nifty 50, and where's Shanghai? Here it is. So don't have the volumes, but we'll get the volume put back in here. So it goes over, under, it comes back, right, testing back into here. I don't think it's going to have more volume today. I'll have to see once we get the numbers in. But that's testing back down, big wide price spread bar. That's not a good thing when you're coming off the top. So I think that looks like problems. So, when I'm looking at a number of these markets, and if I go to Switzerland, which had been one of the better markets in terms of tells, the Swiss market is also suggesting some sort of a pullback, right? I don't have the volumes, but if the volume's lighter, that's an over-under as well. If I move over to the sectors, we're starting to see some problems there. I mean, yeah, we've got the big move in tech that's keeping everything up, but look at the stocks, right? That's a 2-bar reversal on the stocks. If we look at financials, right? Financials can't do anything. They're just hanging there. And with the Fed not going to move yet, which is basically what they said today, a little bit of a, way we might do something, but nobody expects it. They can't move, right? Technology is what's driving us. Look at these safety sectors getting crunched today. Now you get crunched on these, big volume coming out of these again. This has happened several times. Let me pull the weekly over. Every time they come back in and buy it, so I'll be curious to see if they do it again once they get it down lower. But these safety sectors are getting hit. And so there's just a lot of, convergence kind of taking place here, volume coming into this as it hits this swing point low. Looks to me like we're going to get some sort of a pullback finally. And so what I was bringing all of this up for, of course, is to tell you that that's why I'm thinking we're nearing the end of it. We're going to come back to the indexes and discuss that as well, but I want to go over to the OX markets, and I want to show you what's happening here with the oil market. So oil is getting a pretty good beating to the downside. If you look at it on the weekly, you can see that big rollover down about 20% already. The dollar, the Fed today, of course, they didn't believe the Fed's going to do anything. Initially, it was taken as like the Fed was telling us, oh, well, maybe we'll do something in September. Then the market said, the heck with that. We're not going to do anything. And so the dollar started to come in. And when the dollar did that, of course, you had huge spikes up in silver, in the bonds, in gold. Everything started spiking to the upside that was associated with the ideal of more easy money. And so there you see the big spike in bonds. You saw it in the silver market, which is going after the highs, and here you see it in the gold market. And so this market is telling you that they don't believe the Fed can or will have the backbone to do anything about rates in the near future. Now, I had a viewer request to take a look at a stock here, SPKE. If you want to have me look at a stock, all you got to do is just let me know. Just send me an email, tat@tatoday.com. And, tell me what stock it is. Tell me what time frame you're trading, because that's important. And then, we can look at it and see if it makes sense. Now, the time frame here was on the daily chart. And as you can see, this is trading lower. You had volume come in today, although it did reverse, had more volume. If you pull this to the weekly, you can see two things here. You can see it testing back in on a retest, regenerate off this swing point high. So that's the swing point high. That's a bullish retest and an attempt to regenerate. So you come into this, it's more than 6 bars, right? If I can get that drawn in right, more than 6 bars up here. And so when you see that, right, probabilities are pretty high that this thing's going to bounce. Now the problem is your volume on this pullback, right, is more than the volume on the breakout bar and on the bar itself, right, the swing point highs bar. And so when you see that, that's saying, hey, even though we might get the bounce, and we should get the bounce, we did two things we shouldn't have done. A, we got all the way down to do a full retest regen. That shouldn't happen. Not after 6 bars, right? Second thing is we hit it with more volume. What that tells me is you get a small bounce, right, and then you come and try to break it again. So As far as trying to go long this stock, looking at the weekly chart suggests to me that this is probably not one of the better trades. Yeah, you've got a good possibility, but you're going to have to watch it like a hawk, or you might just wake up one morning and find yourself deep in the hole. So there's probably better places to put your money than into these oil stocks right now. As far as what's going to happen next, let's take a look at that. We've got the S&P 500 today, as I said, traded down. And so here's that chart. And so what you see here is a sideways move, right? It's been going sideways, continues to go sideways. But on the Fed bar now, we get a little bit volume pickup here, right? But it's testing down on the volume pickup. That's not a good sign. That suggests to me that it's probably going to try and hit it again. If we take the divergent view, which is the tech sector now, you got Facebook tonight, also gets a nice big bump up about, I think it was about 4 or 5%, maybe about 6 at the end. Volume pushes up. You got a doji up here. That could be a turn, but it doesn't necessarily mean one. It looks to me like you're going to get another spike up in the morning, and we'll see if Facebook can move enough of the sector, whereas Apple, I don't think really did. Apple was most of the weighting of the move today. NDX, same sort of picture, doing the same sort of thing. Gets up there, almost a doji, a little bit more volume. And finally, small caps. Small caps do close higher, volume higher. So on the indexes, we're not quite there. Underneath the covers, though, we're starting to see the ground laid for a pullback. It's going to come, probably going to come, and it could come off the Japan news tomorrow, but it's going to come fairly soon. That's it for tonight. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. Have yourself a great one. I'll see you next time.